This is my bass guitar, and I absolutely love how it sounds. It's got a nice, deep, round, and thuddy tone that will sound good in practically any song. But the problem is, I'm totally lying to you. What you're hearing right now isn't actually my bass guitar. What you're hearing is the raw, unprocessed sound of my newest 100% 3D printed instrument that I'm calling the Bass Beam. With a fully 3D printed tuning mechanism, a long and sturdy modular design, and a 3D printed string that actually sounds good and plays surprisingly well, this instrument turned out better than I had expected. But it didn't come easy. What began as a simple concept in theory ended up taking weeks of testing, printing, designing, and failing, and I did all of this because I had to redeem myself. Last month, I released a video where I created a song using only 100% 3D printed instruments. And while most of you had nothing but kind things to say, some of you were rightfully so critical about my overuse of software effects to turn the natural plasticky sound of the 3D printed instruments into the more standard sounds you'd hear in any regular pop song. So in this video, I will be showing you how I improved the stringed instrument from my last video, the struggles I went through going from design to the real world.
That should not be bending like that.
And of course, I'll record a brand new song to showcase what this instrument is really capable of. Only this time, I will be limiting the software effects I am allowed to use for this song down to just a few core plugins. Most notably, I won't be allowed to use
any software tuning.
So this was the original stringed instrument I designed, and it was a decent first try, but there were some obvious flaws with the design as well. The structural stability of the entire instrument was honestly pretty bad, and in order to get the best tone out of the string, I had to add so much tension that it really limited how long I could make the neck of the guitar before it started bowing uncontrollably. And due to this limitation, in order to get a proper bass tone, I had to record the part and then tune it down an entire octave to get close to a tone that resembled a bass. Now, a typical bass guitar, and really any stringed instrument like this, is actually very simple by design. All you really need is a neck, which is basically just a stick, that is strong enough to overcome the tension of the strings tightened onto it while being narrow enough to wrap your fingers around it to play. Because the steel strings used in most instruments are engineered to be very consistent in mass and size across its entire length, when you pluck them, the vibrations of the string produce some very predictable frequencies, and those frequencies are interpreted by our ears as notes. When you press down on the string against a fretboard in this case, you are effectively shortening the length of the string, which causes the string to vibrate faster. The shorter the string, the faster it vibrates, the higher the note you hear. So clearly string length affects how low of a note we can get. And in this original design, I made the neck way too flimsy, and I was only able to make it a bit longer than this before it became too unstable to play. So it was pretty clear that if I was going to hit these low notes naturally, I was going to have to make my instrument significantly longer. So to get an idea of how long I'd need to make it, I printed out a really quick little testing jig that clamped to my desk that would allow me to tension some filament over a 4-foot span, which is actually about a foot longer than my real bass. By touching this contact microphone to one end of the jig, you can hear just how low of a note we can get at this length using the same filament string I had on my original guitar. This was definitely headed in the right direction, but it was still not quite as low as I wanted it. And I really didn't want my instrument to be any longer than this for playability reasons. But luckily, there was another way I could further reduce the frequency of the string's vibrations. If you look at my real bass again, you can see it has 4 strings and they vary in size, where the smaller one sounds kinda low, but nothing compared to the fatter one despite them being the same length. This is because the weight of the string also plays a vital role in the tone, with a heavier string being able to produce a warmer, thicker tone with more bass because the added mass of the string makes it vibrate slower. So to test this out, I tried wrapping another strand of filament around the already tensioned one I had in my jig, and sure enough, I did some additional testing with this jig and found that a single PETG filament wrapped in 2 additional strands of flexible TPU filament gave me the best tone and would even allow me to make the overall length of the instrument a bit shorter to around the 3-foot range, which puts it at just about the same size as my real bass. So with my length somewhat figured out, I jumped into Fusion 360 to start designing my new instrument. I knew this thing was going to have to be beefier all around, but I wasn't sure that just beefing the design up alone would be enough to handle the string tension at this length. Luckily, a few of you commented on the last video a pretty clever way that I could potentially overcome some of those forces by simply allowing the string to wrap around the bottom of the instrument and come up the backside of the neck. That way, as tension is increased, the string along the backside should help equalize some of those forces. Oh, and one other change I was dealing with in this build is the fact that I got a new printer. Well, Prusa actually sent me their new printer called the Core 1 to test out in exchange for using it in a video. This isn't sponsored, but I've honestly wanted to get my hands on a Prusa machine for quite some time, as I really love what the company stands for, and I've heard amazing things. So I'm super thankful that Prusa was kind enough to send this machine over to me to try out. So I did a test print of the new design that came out beautifully on the new printer. And my goal here was to mostly test out the string tensioning mechanism to see if I would be able to keep the neck relatively straight at high tension, while also just getting a general feel for the new design in my hands. With the string on and tensioned, it seemed to be holding up nicely. You'll notice I put this sort of recessed track along the back of the neck, so the string had a place to wrap around without getting in the way of my hands while I'm playing it. So I started to print the new parts for what would hopefully be the final version of the new bass, and they were popping off the new printer amazingly. But then I did start to have some issues. This printer has a really neat warm-up and bed leveling process that does seem to make sure the printer is in the best condition to help your print succeed, and I really like this feature, but I do think some of these startup steps are almost too sensitive, as it started to have some issues with the bed leveling phase where it kept detecting a collision and wouldn't proceed to actually print. This honestly did frustrate me for a little while as I was relying on this printer for this project. Luckily though, I discovered on a forum that if you change the starting G-code to turn the nozzle off briefly as it does the probing, this should solve the problem, and sure enough, it totally did. Now, this is clearly something that Prusa should be able to solve in a more permanent way, but it happened to me, so I felt like I had to mention this. This is a relatively new machine after all, so little issues like these are to be expected, and aside from this one little hiccup, this thing has been a total beast. It's damn fast, super reliable, and the prints look great. And the machine itself looks really, really good as well. If you enjoy sitting and watching prints happen like I do, this machine is the best enclosed printer that I've used for that experience by far. My parents actually came to visit me while I was working on this video, and I got to show them firsthand just how cool this printer is. Can you see it actually adding the next layer of plastic on there?
Oh, absolutely. Higher and higher and higher.
Is it metal?
It looks like metal, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think so. It's plastic, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Look at that. Whoa.
And every single print since has been a total success.
No! Why?
Well, I had a couple failures, but probably less than I've had on any other printer I've ever owned. I've really grown to trust that my prints will likely come out successful with this machine. But at the end of the day, every printer experiences failed prints from time to time. But with my parts popping off the machine again, I was able to assemble the new design. On top of hollowing it out and printing it at 100% infill, I also added this removable fingerboard, which would allow me to stagger the placement and put a solid board across each of the joints in an attempt to further solidify the whole thing. I'm not sure if this helped that much, but it looks really cool, especially printed out of this Prusament Galaxy Black PLA. And this also gives me the opportunity to design these fingerboards with frets later on, which I'm very likely going to do for a future video. After everything was assembled, I threw on my wrapped string assembly to test everything out. The tone was amazing, and the beefier neck felt better in my hands than the tiny neck of my original design. But I wasn't super sold on the string. Because it had TPU wrapped around it, it was far from being an even shape across the length of the string. So for the most part it works, but when fretting it, there were certain spots where the note didn't register correctly. It was like I have built-in frets inside the string. You can really hear this when I tried to do a slide. We should be hearing a smooth note slide, but instead I was getting this weird stepping of the notes, which isn't ideal. I could work with this if I had to, but I had an idea for a better string that might solve this. So basically my plan was to wrap the PETG filament more consistently by printing a tube out of TPU and pausing the print halfway so I could manually insert the PETG filament into the track before resuming the print in hopes that the TPU will encase the PETG filament and leave me with a really solid PETG core TPU string. So I did a small scale test on a tiny little 20mm length of TPU first. As the tube printed about halfway, I commanded the printer to pause so I could insert my PETG and then continue the print. I don't think this is gonna work.
Oh my god, this might be working.
The test came out great.
So that actually kind of worked. I guess let's try to do a longer one.
The TPU tube was a little small, so I increased the diameter of it and ran a longer test. Okay, bigger test here. One of the reasons I had to use TPU for this string design was that the tube needed to be printed in a spiral in order to achieve the length I wanted while still being able to fit on one single print bed. If this was solid filament, I would not be able to straighten this out after printing. With the next test paused, I tried to insert my filament and it popped right off the bed. But this was an easy fix. I just added a brim so the TPU would adhere to the bed better, and I tried again.
Yes. Look how good that looks. Oh. Wow. That is pretty darn cool.
Feeling confident with how well the tests went, I decided to print the final version.
All right, the journey begins. Got it on the Prusa now.
So I lengthened the spiral to as big as the bed would allow, which ended up giving me more than twice the length of string I'd need, which was nice just in case I needed to replace the string for whatever reason later on.
It's the moment of truth. The string is paused, and we're gonna insert the filament into the channel. Look at that. Oh my god, I'm so nervous.
The way the filament was coming off the spool made it very difficult to maneuver the filament into the tube, but after a ton of finessing, I got it in and resumed the print.
Oh, I think it's working.
And as I was about to head to bed, disaster struck.
Wait, what is happening?
Okay, as you can see, it's not done. Just as I was about to leave, I noticed a ticking sound. And it appears the filament has gotten clogged in the nozzle. So I've paused it. I'm trying to do a filament change, but let's see here. Oh, that's such a bad sound. Oh, that's such a bad sound. Okay. So this is TPU, right? So it's asking me to open the idler and remove filament manually. I'm assuming this is what it wants me to do. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. God, this sucks. I'm just about to go to bed too. I don't know what I'm looking at here. What am I supposed to be seeing? That looks fine. Do I take that off now? Oh my gosh.
Would you look at that?
So it's clogged. I gotta unclog it. So let's see. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do here. Oh, guys, I think I did it. Oh my gosh. We might have saved this print, y'all. Woo! Woo! Was filament unload successful? Well, I'd say it was. I'm gonna close the idler, I suppose. Now that I know what this is. Okay. Now I'm gonna reload. Filament. Oh, see, we got air coming out of there. Yes, yes. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see, everybody. Yes, we're good. Unparking. Ooh, we're unparking. Okay. If this works, I'll be so happy. Wouldn't you be happy, Dust?
I think we're back in business. I think we're back in business.
I've never had a print failure like this end in such success. I give credit to the beautiful design of the Prusa Core 1's extruder system and the ability to take the time to fix the jam mid-print and resume without losing the entire thing.
Okay, so it's the next day, and let's take a look at our print here. Oh, yes! Yes! Look at that, it actually worked. Does anybody else have flies in their printer?
The next morning, I rushed out to the studio and got to peel my new string off the bed and clean it up and cut it to length before testing it out on my bass.
And how's it sound? Oh yeah.
Okay, now some of you might be thinking, why did your original guitar have a body and this one is just a big stick? Well, traditionally stringed instruments like acoustic guitars relied on these big hollow body constructions to amplify the string sound. Because sound is picked up by our ears as pressure waves, a string on its own is really too small to move enough air to create a big enough pressure wave for us to hear easily. But on an acoustic guitar like this, you have this large surface area called the soundboard. And as the string vibrates, those vibrations transmit through the bridge of the guitar and in turn vibrate the soundboard. So what you are hearing when you pluck an acoustic guitar is actually the pressure waves produced by the soundboard. Now, looking at most bass guitars, they generally look like this, where it still has a body which can produce some additional volume and influence the bass tone slightly, but these bass guitars are solid body and generally need to be plugged in to play. There are some acoustic basses. In fact, my bass is semi-acoustic with this hollow body construction that makes it decently loud without plugging it in. But typically, in order to have a bass instrument that is loud enough acoustically, you need to have a massive body like you'd find on this double bass. Since my intention is to be using this instrument in a recording scenario, I don't really need to hear it super loudly acoustically, and with a contact microphone like this, I can just convert the vibration of the string directly into audio signal that goes into my computer. The body of a bass like this can be helpful for playability as a place to rest your hand or sit it on your lap, but I actually have this office chair with these armrests that are super annoying when I'm trying to play my regular bass. So it's actually a benefit in this super specific case that this bass beam doesn't have a body. Now, all that said, I did make an acoustic version of this instrument, which I'll get to in a minute, but first let's record a bass line for our new song.
So I started by making a simple MIDI track just to play along to. None of the MIDI stuff ended up in the final song, though, I promise. Now, what you're listening to is probably like my 20th take, and it's still far from perfect. A keen ear can hear a good amount of bad notes in there. But I put my MIDI track on loop, and I just played along until I figured out what the bass part was actually gonna be first. And then once I figured it out, I just kept playing it over and over again until I felt like I nailed all the different sections of the song. I never once got the entire bass part perfect on any of these takes, but that's okay because I was going to be comping this.
So, for comping, we did a bunch of takes, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pick the best parts of each take. Let's start with the first bar here. Okay, not that one. Okay, so right off the bat, I like this first. That first A sharp's nice. Ooh, that one's too early. So let's just take these three. I really don't like the way the D hits there. The open D. Nice. Do I have a better D? Ooh, that one feels good. I don't know if these are actually in tune. It's so low, it's kind of hard to... That feels nice. So we've got our first bar here. Chorus time. Ooh, don't like that.
So as you can see, comping can be a long and tedious task, even for a simple bass part like this one. It didn't help that my bass was fretless, so many of the notes were just slightly off, rendering them unusable, meaning I had to sift through way more takes than I usually would to find the right parts. But hey, that's what these challenges are all about.
So this song is going to be pretty bare bones in terms of instrumentation, but I obviously need more than just bass. I actually added some more sounds using my original guitar design, but I wanted to make something a little more special using the new neck design. So I built this. This is a 4-string banjo ukulele type of thing, and because it uses the same neck design, it can be easily converted into a shorter build so I can get some higher notes with this thing. Because this neck was so much wider, I was able to fit 4 strings on this guy while still being playable, so I designed this new headstock, which is literally just 4 of the original tuning mechanisms combined into one. Now, the big difference here is obviously the body, which is really just a circle with a skin on it, kind of like a banjo. And the idea is that this skin will act as a soundboard, much like you'd find on an acoustic guitar, like I was talking about before. I really want to experiment more with designing 3D printed soundboards in the future, but I just felt like this would be the easiest and loudest thing I could do quickly. Now, this body gives us a really good look at the tension that's going on inside this instrument. With 3 additional strings, the tension is much higher, and the neck is holding up great, but the body was definitely feeling the pressure. Luckily, this was a relatively quick fix with a simple brace. Now, the issue with a 4-string guitar like this is if all the strings are the same thickness, you really don't have a lot of room to tune them. Like, you can make them all different notes, but to be useful, you want a relatively large range of notes between each string. And unfortunately, the tuning range of these filament strings just isn't that much. I could definitely have printed a few different thicknesses of the TPU string I made for the bass, but I really wanted to avoid doing all that extra work. So instead, I went with changing the string length of each individual string by redesigning a bridge that spread across the entire surface of the soundboard. And now we can tune this thing relatively well.
Okay, so now I'm going to record some guitar with this guy. I added this floppy piece of TPU because this was actually too resonant and I was getting some weird frequencies going on. So this kind of dampens it, makes it a little bit less weird. And I'm recording this with a microphone because I think it sounds a little cooler than with the contact mic.
Again, this is a fretless design, and I probably should have tried to print the frets here, as that would have helped dramatically with playing in tune, but this is all just one big learning experience. Oh, and since my parents were here, I got a chance to have a little jam with my dad while the new Prusa printer kept the rhythm. Even my mom got involved for a minute. With some basic tracks laid down, I started to add some vocals. And for this new song, because I'm going to be using very few effects and no auto-tune, I really wanted to write something that had a much more natural and earthy feel to it. And I wanted to kind of hide the 3D printer lyrics a bit better than in my last song.
They say it happens to the best, I guess, but I failed you again. Now my head hangs in shame. Oh, it doesn't matter how you slice it, I'll make the same mistakes. I'm not worth the time that I waste, and I'll miss the trust you gave me, all the progress that we made. It's a shame. Oh, okay, I need to take a breath after that.
Throughout this project, I've been really learning a ton about 3D printing in general, but I still find myself swearing and yelling at them when things fail. This made me think I should write a song from my 3D printer's perspective about how it feels when it fails. I think this will be a fun way to write something that's a little less happy and produced, while still keeping the 3D printing lyrics theme going.
Kind of cool.
This project really pushed me this time. I have never tried to record a song like this knowing I wouldn't be able to fix things later on in the mixing stage. And it affected the way I wrote the song and really forced me to pay attention during the recording step of the music making process, which I honestly don't typically pay much attention to. I don't think I'm totally sold on the no tuning whatsoever mindset, because with tuning, you can take an otherwise amazing take that has all this character and vibe. And if the only thing that's wrong with it is it's slightly out of tune, then it's no big deal. But as soon as you take that capability away, now tuning becomes arguably the most important aspect of every take. And I feel like that reduces some of the fun of recording music a little bit and turns it into more of a physically demanding task rather than a creative one.
One more chance just to fix this. I need you. Okay, I need some water is what I need.
And even for the bass and guitar parts, I had to go back and re-record single notes that didn't sit right in the mix, which was kind of a huge pain compared to being able to just adjust the tuning slightly. But this is definitely something many of us in the music scene have been debating for years, and I'm certainly going to be taking a lot of the lessons I learned from doing this and applying them to my music production moving forward. Now, before I reveal the finished song, I want to just mention a couple things. First, I want to thank everyone that commented and shared the last video. It was so cool to see this little project reach so many of you, and now I'm determined to create a full album using only 3D printed instruments. I will be turning these videos into a little series where each video will take a look at a different instrument group, and I'll try and engineer the best fully 3D printed version of them before writing and recording a song that highlights them. So if this project is something you want to follow, please consider subscribing. I'm also playing around with the idea of starting a little Patreon page or something where I can go really in depth into the process I use to design for 3D printing, as well as making music. So I just wanted to put some feelers out there. If you'd be interested in more of the behind the scenes technical stuff, maybe I do some live streams and share project files and whatnot, let me know in the comments if you'd consider joining that. Each one of these videos takes a ton of time and resources, so I wanted to try and build a little community on the side where I can share things a lot more frequently. Also, if you really like this video and want to help me out for the next 7 days after posting this video, you can do this new thing called hyping the video, where it basically tells YouTube that this content is worth pushing. Just go to the video on a mobile device, swipe left on the comments section, and click hype. I'd appreciate that so much. I also want to thank Prusa for giving me the chance to test this sweet new machine out, and I think it's going to make an appearance in many videos to come. And finally, like last time, I will be releasing the song as a standalone music video on YouTube, as well as on all the music streaming platforms. So without further ado, this is the new, fully 3D printed song, without tuning, When I Fail You Again.
What? No. How could you fail? Stupid printer. Say it happens to the best, I guess, but I failed you again. Now my head hangs in shame. I've been working round the clock, what a shock. I couldn't stop. I'm the only one to blame. Oh, it doesn't matter how you slice it, I'll just make the same mistakes. I'm not worth the time that I waste, and I'll miss the trust you gave me, all the progress that we made. It's a shame I lost it that way. Don't tell me you forgive me just yet. Let me live with this regret. It's the only way I'll learn. Though I wish that we could both just forget what happened on my bed, but the truth will always hurt. Oh, it doesn't matter how you slice it, I'll just make the same mistakes. I'm not worth the time that I miss the trust you gave me, all the progress that we made. It's a shame, but oh, could you give me one more chance just to fix this? I need you to use me again. Oh, please let me prove it. And I know I'm not perfect, but I need you to use me again. They say it happens to the best, I guess, but I swear I'll fix it when I fail you again.